Hi, this is Trevor Conquergood. Welcome to this week's R&K Software Club's video of the week, and the topic for this week is how to get access to some of the special symbols and fancy sort of European text characters that are available in our text tools. And so what we'll do to get started, there's sort of, I guess, several things that I can talk about here, but basically it's a question that we often get asked. How do you get access to the things that you didn't make? And so here's the font. It's a basic text font, Anna, and if I hover over it, notice that it shows me a sort of picture of all the different symbols and characters that have been digitized for this font. And several of those I don't have a keystroke for. Now, you might if you had, a European keyboard, but if you don't, the question often gets asked, how do you type out the fancy letter D or something like that? And so that's what I thought we would talk about today. There may be several ways to answer this question, but the one that I've always used is actually a little Windows thing. It's called Character Map. And so if you want to get access to the characters, this character map will help us with our built-in fonts. It'll also help us with our TrueType fonts. And so what we're going to do, I'll just say okay to that. And so to make this segment that says my text into one of those fancy European symbols, I need to look to something outside of my Floriani software for a little bit of help. I'm going to just click on the little magnifying or the search menu for my computer and type in the word character. In fact, just typing in CHAR has brought up the app. It's called the Character Map. And when I click on that, a little window opens up, and this little window allows me to browse through the TrueType fonts of my computer and select my characters in a more visual way. And so we were kind of looking at some of the fancy kind of winding things there, but let's just start with a basic sort of font like Arial. And notice as I go through Arial, there are these sort of European symbols and characters alongside of, the percentage sign and the numbers and the letters. So if it was the D that you wanted, the fancy sort of Latin capital letter, whatever it says there, you just click on that. And that shows you what it looks like, and you're like, yes, that's what I want. Click select. And so that little D has shown up in my sort of characters to copy list, and you could add in as many of them as you wanted to kind of create a little sort of, and you can even include regular old characters in there as well. But when you're done and you've got everything you want, you click copy. And then you come back to your Floriani software and you go into the properties box where it says my text and you paste. So I'm just going to go Control V on my keyboard to paste in the text that I had copied using the character map. And now I click apply. And so all of those characters were in the font Anna. Now, had I chosen something that Anna didn't include, because there may have been things on this character map that weren't digitized into the font. As you can see, there's a lot of choices here. So if you pick something that doesn't exist in your font, you'll probably already know that what happens is you just get a blank sort of like space in your, if you tried to put this one in as well and you copy all that, and then come over here and paste that in instead, the question is, will the last one add on? And the answer is no, it didn't. And that's because that character doesn't actually exist in this letter style. But if there was another letter style that character did exist in, so we can try the next font to see, for that matter, in Andrew, do any of these characters exist, right? We don't know. And so I'll say okay. And in Andrew, yes, the D did, the C did, and the S did. But again, not that last one that I added on, whatever that is. So first of all, we're still talking about the fonts that are built into our software and the fact that when they were digitized, whoever digitized them chose to include special symbols. Now, if I go to the next one on the list and click apply, only the C and the S showed up. So that fancy D obviously doesn't exist. And again, if you just hover over the Asgard font, you'll be able to see what has been digitized. So when you're dealing with the ones that are already digitized, they're nice because the results have been sort of planned by a human, how the stitching should go, and it's sort of no automatic digitizing required. All that said, if you want to get access to the other fonts and other symbols or things that we don't have, as you know, you can always choose to go to your true type font list. And then, if I remember correctly, it was the Arial was the one that we started with that should have all of these symbols. And so if I choose Arial and click apply, they all show up. But those stitches were created by the software, on the fly. In other words, it had to interpret it. And when you get to some of the fancier ones, sometimes it gets a little bit kind of dicey as to whether or not you get as clean a result as this. And, at the end of the day, as long as you understand how to control a satin path, you can usually fix it anyway. I want to show you a whole nother way of doing this, because I find this to be kind of one of my favorite ways. And that's here under the text tool, where you choose to import a true type font as an artwork, so no auto digitizing. In that case, you get a different way of adding it. So here, notice that it has the text, and so if I go ahead and click delete that and paste right now, Control V. Now I've got the font selected as some SEGOE, but if I select, I can go through any of the true type fonts in my computer. So I think that was one that started with A, so somewhere close to the top here. We should have that, was it Arial? And then in this case, you get other options for the font. So not just Arial, but Arial Bold, Arial Bold Italic, Black Oblique. So different variations of that same font. And then what size would you like them to come in? And I usually bring them in the biggest size, because I can always scale it down to any size I want. But it gives me a nice big clean piece of artwork to work with. And so I say OK. And then I say OK. And so we get that DS. Now, maybe that wasn't from Arial, because I'm not sure. I didn't get the last symbol out of the bit, but that could be something else. This is the thing when you bring it in as artwork. Now it's not you could choose to do a big standard fill for this, or fill it in with a motif fill. Maybe make your motifs a little smaller so they get lots of them in there. So that's the concept with artwork, bringing in your font as artwork. Then you can decide how to stitch it in. The other thing that I thought was kind of cool, so if you look in your character map, we have a lot of our fonts come in with, see, that was Arial. And what did I try when I brought these in and it didn't get that? I'm just curious why that box didn't show up. So I'll click on the tool once again. I had Arial, maybe because I chose Arial Black with the bold or something, that's why that symbol didn't actually come in. And had I just chosen the regular Arial, maybe that would have been sort of the trick there. So on the character maps, the one thing I was going to say here is you can choose, and there are ones that you'll find and download. They're like little clip art collections, right? So if I go all the way down to the bottom where you'll find the W's, I'm going to choose Windings. And when I go on Windings, notice that there's like a whole set of little sort of symbols. Those look like zodiacs. There's happy faces in here, all that kind of stuff. And so you choose your little happy face, delete all that, and click select. And click copy, and then come on into here, and then click on your import true type font artwork sort of options, and paste that happy face, which apparently is the letter J, and say select. Now, because I don't want the letter J in Arial, I want to go down to the kind of bottom of my font list to find the Windings and say OK. And so now I'm going to get the letter J or a happy face in, and I noticed I got it as so here's kind of an interesting thing. I had left the setting on, just go back to it, bold oblique, whereas if I go to regular and say OK, and okay. My happy face is a little bit more sort of rounded looking, so maybe you like to have a squishy, pushed over happy face. Anyway, that's kind of a cool thing about it. Now, of course, I have the artwork of a happy face that I could convert into embroidery, and really the steps are going to be the same. This little happy face, I could click on here to create a standard fill for it. You do get kind of little jumps because it's not that big of a design. Same thing if I auto satin it. The reason those are jumping is because it's all combined, right? The whole face was one segment, and really to do this one properly, you would want to sort of separate those into like the border and then the mouth and the two different eyes, and that way the software can know to trim in between them. So what I'm saying is, rather than just clicking on auto satin, what I might do is just click back on the artwork tool and then use the break apart tool. And so once I break that apart, the one thing you might notice is the outer circle got broken into like two individualized rings. They're both sort of individually selectable. And so those two I'm going to actually select and combine back together again, so that when I auto satin them, the software knows that they're, two things that belong together. But then I can do the mouth and the eyes as, satin stitches, or whatever kind of stitches that you like. Yeah, so that's kind of the thing that I thought people would enjoy knowing about. It's called the character map, and it's from Windows, right? If you recall at the beginning, if you close the character map, to find it again, you just come on your Windows search menu and type in character, C-H-A-R, to find your character map, where you can use that to browse through all of the TrueType fonts that you've downloaded to your Windows computer, and choose cool little symbols, copy them, and then use them in the Floriani software as new pieces of artwork that you can create into embroidery designs. So I hope you enjoyed today's video, and it gave you lots of new ideas of things to create for your embroidery. Until next week, have a wonderful day, and thanks for listening.